Now, let's think about Peter's vision. So, God meets Cornelius. He gives him this vision. Cornelius sends his entourage to retrieve Peter. Now, Peter goes up during the hour of prayer, and he's hungry, the text says. And while he's in prayer, the text says that he falls into a trance. He has this vision from the Lord. And in this vision, this sheet is let down out of heaven. And on this sheet are all different kinds of animals, all different kinds of reptiles and birds. And the voice from heaven says, "Rise, Peter, kill and eat." Now listen, if you have a sense of humor, you got to see how funny this is. Because Peter is going to argue with a voice from heaven. It says this happened 3 times. Now, I want you to imagine it. I'm going to do it for effect. "Rise, Peter, kill and eat." "Never! I've never put anything common or unclean in my mouth." "Do not call common what God has called clean." "Rise, Peter, kill and eat." "Never! I've never put anything common or unclean in my mouth." "Do not call common what God has called clean." "Rise, Peter." No, I'm saying that's what I would have done if I was the voice from heaven. "Rise, Peter, kill and eat." "Never!" And then the sheet is taken up. And all of a sudden he hears, ding dong. Look at the sovereign timing of this thing. Right after the Lord engages him, look at the text says, it says he's mulling over these things, trying to figure out what this means. And all of a sudden, a group of Gentiles shows up at his doorstep, and they say that their friend has heard from the Lord and was sent to bring him back to him. And he's like, oh, what? This is weird. This is strange. What is God doing right now? And God's about to flip everything upside down for Peter. But I want you to think about something. Peter was not just being obstinate toward the voice from heaven. I want you to realize this is probably what's happening with Peter. How many of you have ever traveled across the world or around the world and you've been offered a food that you're not accustomed to eating? Anybody had that experience? Okay, so I once was traveling around the world, had amazing hospitality, was taken care of by my host so well, and they wanted to take my wife and I out for a fancy dinner. So they took us out for this fancy dinner, and we were eating, and the translator was translating for us, and we were having a good time. And you know, in this culture, you don't put the food on your own plate. Your host keeps putting the food on your plate. So the final dish is coming out, and the waiter's coming out with this dish. And I look at the dish, and it looks like it's a beautifully stacked pyramid of what looks like chocolate pudding cubes. But something in my head said, you better ask what that is. And so I said to the translator, I said, could you tell me what this is? No lie, this is exactly what she did. It's the blood. I was like, the what? She said, it's duck blood. I was like, oh, Lord Jesus, what? Duck blood. This is what the internal dialogue. Externally, I was like, okay. Never. She's like, you like? I said, I said, what? In my mind, I'm like, there is no way this is going down. So they're loading my plate up, and the pile is getting higher on my plate. And I took my chopstick, and I'm like shaking at this point. I'm like fumbling the chopstick, and I finally got it up to my mouth, and I was doing the Dumb and Dumber thing. I was like, but finally I started getting it down, and I was like, Lord, help me to keep this down for your glory, Lord. Do not let me throw up in this restaurant. Listen, I think that's exactly what's happening to Peter here. The thought of eating these critters, all critters of our God and King, are on this sheet. And the thought of eating these things, he's been raised to think that certain things are unclean. And it's not just a dietary thing. He's not just being like, paleo or like healthy. It's a moral distinction in his mind. He can't imagine eating this stuff. It's repulsive to him. It turns his stomach. This is what's happening. But what you need to see is that what happens in the text is that God is showing him that it's not about the food on the sheet. The food is a representation of the way that his heart is repulsed by the Gentiles. It's a picture of the way that his heart is repulsed by those people. And he is beginning to get a sense of the ugliness of his heart, the way that he thinks about those people. He despises them. He thinks they are filthy. They are morally just detestable. He doesn't want to have anything to do with those people. And here's the thing. Before we come down too hard on Peter, we need to ask ourselves a question. Am I like him? Am I like him? Is my heart repulsed by certain people because of their supposedly inferior customs? Do I find myself repelled by those people because something about them I just don't like? I just can't stand those people. Is your heart like that? Do you conclude the case about someone based upon the way that they dress or the way that they talk? Do you automatically assume that you're smarter than somebody when you speak with them and they have an accent? Do you automatically assume that you're smarter than them? The answer to these questions is yes, we do this. This is the way our hearts reveal their brokenness, reveal their ugliness. We are no better than Peter. We all love the people who are like us, and we don't like the people who are not like us. And all of this weakness and brokenness in our hearts shows up publicly. And we see it, don't we? We see the ugliness. And we see the way that people are at one another's throats. They're at loggerheads. But really down at the bottom of the battles, the ways that people fight, it is this gut level repulsion by those people. We don't like those people. All of us, no matter how accepting you may think you are, we all have a group of people who are those people to us. And this is where the text is laying us bare. This is where Peter was laid bare. And this is the same place where we are laid bare.